I try to communicate a lot through my artwork, the feelings, the connections to home, the things that I found really, just really deeply rooted themselves into my being. And that's, just that feeling it is to have this connection to a homeland that I can't describe, but I try to bring forth through art, through tangible means. I am a descendant of the Debo and Aikadal tribes of Saibai Island and the Torres Strait. And I grew up on Duan Island, especially because of my mother's traditional adoption to the family there. And so just geographically, the difference between Saibai Island and Duan is so different. Duan is volcanic and Saibai is more of a flat island made up of mangroves and mud and so forth. But I think just with that, growing up on Duan has really established the foundation for who I am as a Torres Strait Islander artist, but also for the things that I draw upon as those experiences that I had there. And one of the most powerful and still motivating memories that I have from that childhood is of time I spent with my grandfather. And he is the cultural spring of all the knowledge that I've gained, and also the skill, the artistic skill. I attribute much to him because I sat for hours with him as a child and, just absorbed everything that he did. And there wasn't an hour that was wasted with him. He was always creating artifacts and spears and all sorts of carvings, from fish to dugongs to turtles. And during those moments, there was more than just carving, and skills that were being taught. There was also cultural knowledge of genealogy, of pastime stories, of hurling lager days, of how everything is interrelated, how the songs are related to how the seasons change, and just certain traditional practices that were taught. And I really value all of those because it really did help to build my imagination around the cultural knowledge and how I was going to interpret that artistically. And growing up in Brisbane is where that contemporary style was influencing the way I was interpreting these traditional cultural knowledge that was being passed to me. So I think bringing those two together, fusing them together, I was able to find a certain style that was unique to me. And I just really find that has really helped me make sense of both worlds, because my father's Australian origins. My mum's the one who's the Torres Strait Islander. It just helped me to bring those two cultures respectfully together, and for me to make sense of things, of those two very separate worlds, those two different ways of being. And through the arts I find that they come together beautifully, but also I'm able to find my unique style in all of this as well. I think with the mangrove pod caps is a fine example of that. Childhood memories of playing on the beach with other children, and we'd find these things on the beach, these mangrove pod caps, which we call Kapu, and sitting for hours just playing and interacting and learning about language, because that's another way I was able to solidify the language structure, was through interacting with other island children. And just all these things that are interwoven into those moments have really laid again or strengthened that earlier foundation of growing up on the islands. And so coming from one extreme to another, I would say was just amazing, and try to make sense of it all. But it has given me a lot of, again, just confidence to know I know who I am as a Torres Strait Islander woman. I know who I am as Sharon, Phineasa. Just, there are many instances where I can look back and it's really stuck out in my memory. For instance, like my granddad would always take us on dinghy trips to the island to a part on the island where the things would wash up from, all places, and we'd find big ropes and all sorts of interesting items that we'd then throw in the dinghy and take back home, and sometimes he'd make something from them straight away, or sometimes they'd stay there until he found, that it could work in something he was doing at the time. So to me, those are also valuable environmental aspects, appreciating, what you have around you to make the most of it, but to also find beauty in objects that are discarded. So I think for his time, my granddad was a very forward thinker and environmental artist, so to speak. So, very resourceful. And I found that has also stayed with me, where I'm able to make something from nothing. My husband says, I'm able to find all these things, bring them together and make something really interesting out of it. And I think, again, that's from watching Granddad, absorbing it, observing how he did things, and how he always made sure that something was never wasted, that every part of it was to be used in some way or another. But, again, valuable island experiences have really, really given me that cultural backbone that, I can think back to many stories that were told to me that I'm able to relate artistically. And I've, for a long while I've taken my time with touching those things, because I thought they were really sacred, and I just didn't want to rush into it until I established myself better as an artist, and I've gained a few more skills and techniques so that I was able to do that well. And I feel I'm getting close to that point now, which I'm going to make that transition to be able to relate our stories from home, because I find that now I'm in a good place to do that, and I've certainly learnt a lot as an artist. So, it's very important for me to represent my culture and the stories that come from my island home, to the best of my ability, that honors the elders, honors the ancestors, and honors my family, my home, because that's something I'm showing to the world, and it has to be the best.